Halo Combat Evolved is one of those games that sparked core memories for a lot of 90s kids. It certainly did for me. It's one of the video games from my childhood. To this day, certain musical transitions, sound effects, and scenes will bring me back to Friday nights with my friends in high school. These moments continued for Halo 2 and Halo 3, and even continued into college with new friends for Halo Reach, and notably did not continue for Halo 4. I still have never played that game along with a number of other Halo games. So in 2011, 10 years after the release of the original game, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was released, and it sounded really cool. A complete remaster of the graphics using a combination of new assets and assets from Halo 3 and Halo Reach, the ability to switch between the new and old graphics on the fly, achievements, and Xbox Live multiplayer. And I also didn't play it. Until recently, that is, when I grabbed Halo the Master Chief Collection on Steam for $10. Quite the steal. It was time. I hadn't played any Halo game in over 10 years, and now I was about to play the game that started it all, with updated graphics at 60 FPS, using mouse and keyboard, and on my modest but still powerful PC.
Punch it.
And I was not impressed. See, when 343 Industries updated the graphics for Halo Anniversary, they also changed the original aesthetic intended by Bungie. The developers significantly changed three things: more detailed environments, more detailed models, and much brighter lighting to highlight all of these changes. No, seriously, they even added actual floodlights all over the different maps when there weren't any previously, or at least there were significantly less. These changes work well in already lit outdoor areas. A couple examples would be the Arrival on Halo and the Silent Cartographer missions. The extra detailed environments generally look nice, and it's clear what type of topography is intended. These changes do not work pretty much anywhere else, but especially in dark areas, whether indoor or outdoor. Almost every indoor area in the game is too well lit compared to the original. The dark corners and shadowy figures are completely lost with the updated graphics. The Forerunner structures are riddled with meaningless luminescent panels. All of these adjustments change the mood of the game. And this is demonstrated nowhere better than the infamous 343 Guilty Spark. This is the level I would always dread as a kid, along with the next, which we'll get to in a little bit. 343 Guilty Spark is well known to be the turning point in Halo Combat Evolved, because it changed the game from a simple sci-fi first-person shooter to a horror game. While there are a few Halo games that I've never played, I'd be willing to bet that it is the scariest mission in the series. Let's get into why. There are three elements that make 343 Guilty Spark so scary. 1. It's a complete maze. The level design consists of a series of repetitive corridors and rooms that are very similar to each other. It's easy to get lost, especially if you don't know what to look for to progress. There's even a twist in the middle of the level that adds to this. We'll get to that. 2. The original uses darkness in a very effective and unnerving way, both indoors and outdoors. 3. It introduces a new enemy that has only been hinted at in ominous voice lines prior. This, of course, is the Flood, a hyper-intelligent supervirus that turns both your enemies and your allies into zombified husks. So let's walk through the problems with the anniversary version of 343 Guilty Spark. The level starts with Master Chief flying into a dark swamp in the dead of night. The changes are immediately noticeable. The original is incredibly dark, and visibility is limited. But despite that, it's still clear that the environment is a swamp. If you switch to the updated graphics, however, suddenly the environment is lit up, both with randomly placed floodlights that were far less powerful previously, and with giant glowing fungi that were present in the original but far more subdued. Regardless of the light sources, the whole area is just very well lit, unnaturally so. If the player didn't use the flashlight in the original, the zone was nearly pitch black. But with the updated graphics, the flashlight is completely unnecessary, as it is basically everywhere else in the entire game other than the flashlight tutorial. There is even a foreshadowing moment in this area that is completely ruined with the updated graphics. When crossing a giant root, the player can see a flood husk running away from on top of a ridge. In the original, all that can be seen is a silhouette, but one that runs and looks completely different from anything you've encountered so far. But with the anniversary graphics, it's clearly a flood. The area is so well lit that you can see the details on its model from across the way. Moving inside the facility, the changes continue to be glaringly obvious. The interior of the structure is lit up, luminescent even. There are giant distracting panels on the walls, all the corners and hallways are fully illuminated. This place is supposed to be dark, foreboding, unsettling. But instead, it's just another way too busy Forerunner zone. Then we come to the hallway. Now, of the two scenes that are changed heavily by the updated graphics, the blood-splattered hallway is mostly inoffensive. It still clearly communicates the massacre that took place. It creates a moment of unease, it's just less dark, less contrasting. As we progress further, we come to a room that actually is made a bit better with the Anniversary Edition, simply because it's clear what happened. In the original, it's pretty easy to miss that this was a containment area for the Flood that was shattered open. The updated graphics make the broken glass easier to see and the Flood particles clearer in the air. Great! When Master Chief finally encounters the Flood, another issue becomes very evident. Not only is the room, once again, way too well lit, but the Flood themselves are significantly more luminescent. Sure, they're more detailed in the Anniversary Edition, but they also stick out more against the background. They no longer blend into the environment like they did in the original. The game is now a horror game, with monsters hiding around each dark corner, but those corners are no longer dark. And now we come to the elevator. This scene is a masterwork in subversion of expectations in the most terrifying of ways. The player has navigated this maze, discovered the Flood, and then navigated the maze again while fighting off hordes of demons. It is intentionally easy to miss that it is not the same elevator as the player arrived on. So when Master Chief reaches the calm room of the elevator, a sense of relief flows through the player. It's over. And then they press the button, and the elevator goes down. Darkness surrounds Master Chief, and all that can be seen is Covenant blood splattered across all the walls. He is now even deeper in the pit of horror. It's an incredible, terrifying scene. The fun thing is, if the player does manage to make their way back to the original elevator, it explodes and is useless. Now let's watch that scene using the Anniversary graphics. Why is it all lit up? Where's the blood? I know I'm colorblind, but I honestly can't even see it. This iconic moment from the original Halo is completely ruined when using the updated graphics. So many examples previously could be chalked up to the devs not paying close enough attention or not seeing the forest for the trees. But this? How could this not be intentional? Why would they change this? The rest of the level suffers from all the same issues as we have already discussed. So let's move on to the library. This mission has only one issue, but it's almost more egregious than the many issues in 343 Guilty Spark. It's the lighting, because of course it is. The library is notoriously dark, with many hidden corners and long corridors. The player is constantly swarmed by Flood throughout the entire level. But the updated graphics make it fall flat due to how bright everything is. The original purposefully had low visibility throughout near the entirety of the mission. The Anniversary Edition changes the mood of the library, just like it did 343 Guilty Spark, and it's once again hard to imagine it not being intentional. So, are there any missions that are just all around better in Halo Anniversary? Well, yes actually. The Maw is the final level in Halo Combat Evolved. It's a classic finale, ending where it all began, on the horse you rode in on. The Pillar of Autumn is falling apart, but the original doesn't really do the best job of showing that with the interior. The Anniversary Edition changes that for the better. Bulkheads are charred, sparks are flying, the bridge is utterly destroyed. This is the graphical enhancement that was needed throughout the rest of the game, interpreting the original intentions and making them clearer, more immersive. I wanted this video to mostly focus on aesthetics, but Halo Anniversary has another big issue related to the updated graphics that I didn't touch on. It actually affects the gameplay in a pretty unacceptable way. The way the game manages to switch between the new and old graphics is pretty simple actually. The original Halo Combat Evolved is always running underneath the Anniversary visuals. There's nothing wrong with this in theory, but in practice, the developers made a pretty big error. They didn't match the old geometry to the new visuals. This results in shockingly frequent situations where the player can be using the updated graphics and will accidentally hit invisible terrain when they otherwise had a clear shot at the enemy. This is not a huge issue on easy or normal difficulties, but can be a pretty big problem on heroic, where enemies are tougher and resources are significantly more scarce, let alone legendary. And it's going to be more evident in the higher difficulties because use of cover is far more necessary. Listen, I get it. Halo Combat Evolved is an old game. There are definitely very dated visuals that look even worse when playing on high-end PCs. This game was designed to run at 480 resolution on the original Xbox, for goodness sake. Wanting to update the visuals and wanting to highlight those visuals makes total sense, and I can imagine what 343 Industries were thinking. The original Bungie developers had strict limitations, and they used those limitations to craft an incredible experience. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary just misses the point. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed listening to me ramble about one of my favorite games from my childhood, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to my channel. And if you're interested in hearing about my favorite game of all time and how it made me a better husband, click the video link on screen. Work hard, be healthy, and remember to do what you love.